Hi, welcome to the 13th floor. I'm Marty Duda, and today we have with us Luke Yeoward. Greetings, Luke. I got
Thanks,
the name
Marty.
correct?
Yes, you got the name correct.
And
Thanks very much.
It's great that you're with us. It's been a while since you've been performing on this side of the Tasman. You're a resident of Melbourne now, correct?
That's right, yep.
But you are a Kiwi.
Yep.
So,
I grew up here and spent a lot of time in Rotorua, New Zealand, and that's where I sort of spent my school years and high school years and started doing a bit of work. And then I started some punk rock bands and things like that, and that sort of took me through my teenage years and into my early 20s.
what was growing up in Rotorua? Is there any kind of musical thing that's attached to that, or is it
no?
just
I don't know. I can't.
Punks thing say it all kind of.
I felt like a bit of a reject in Rotorua, to be honest. Like with the kind of music that I was into, and compared to what was popular at the time. I was a punk rocker, and most people would sort of look at you sideways when you're walking down the street as a punk in a town like that. But that's cool, like I kind of moved to different cities, spent some time in Hamilton, and then came up to Auckland and lived up north for a little bit. And then my old band, King Cannons, we kind of had a bit of a plan. We wanted to move to England, and then we ended up in Australia. And then, I've been in Australia since 2009 and sort of been sort of pretty busy ever since then. So, yeah.
So the King Cannons thing came to an end in 2013.
Correct? Yeah. I sort of pulled the plug on that because I was working really, really hard, and we'd done a lot as a band, and it was a really great journey. We'd done some really cool things, and I loved it. But then there was something about it, like towards the end, I wasn't feeling good within myself. And yeah, I don't know, I was just like, maybe I'll try and do some other projects and see if that helps the way that I was feeling towards music and performing and all that sort of stuff that comes along with it. And that didn't really work out either. I just continuously felt this sort of like dark cloud over me. I don't know how to explain it. And so I just sort of chucked it in with music for a couple of years, and sold all my gear and wanted to pay off some debts and just sort of recalibrate, let the dust settle. It sounds so, token, because I always hear, people, we had to take a break and all these sorts of things. I'm like, nah, you've got to be kidding me. Like, what are you talking about? You'll be fine.
Right.
But no, really, for the first time ever, I was just like, nah, I got to stop doing this. And then it was after my daughter was born that I kind of had the idea to make this solo album, and sort of started down that route, and here we are today.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, the album is called Ghosts.
That's right.
And you're going to play some songs for us.
I sure am.
And I believe the first one that we're going to hear is indeed title track.
Yeah, I'd love to play that track. That song's kind of like a bit of a self-affirmation as well as a call to arms to everybody else as well. The lyrics in it are sort of talking about just that one key moment of inspiration, or that one sort of point where your life changes trajectory, for better or worse. But in this instance, it was me reconnecting with music and taking myself out of that sort of dead zone, and saying you don't have to be in that realm. You can actually be taking part and creating something and doing something positive. So that's the notion in that tune.
Cool. All right. Well, let's give it a listen, and we'll come back and talk a bit more.
All right.
One set as automatic can be set to come undone. One thought we'd forget it, always bound to come around. Now just a second of sound can kick up the ground. We don't have to be these ghosts stuck here. A second of sound can kick up the ground. We don't have to be these ghosts stuck here. Now who says we're going under? Who says we ain't got power? Rotten, invisible, buried, forgotten. don't have to be these ghosts stuck here. A second of sound can kick up the ground. We don't have to be these ghosts stuck here. A second of sound can kick up the ground. We don't have to be these ghosts stuck here. A second of sound can kick up the ground. We don't have to be these ghosts stuck here. We ain't staying down. We ain't staying down. Staying down.
Okay, we're back here with Luke Yeoward, and we've just heard Ghost, the title track to his new album, his new solo album. The process of kind of giving up music and then coming back and presenting yourself as a solo artist, was that a major kind of change in attitude and the way you're thinking and the way you have to kind of think about what you do?
Well, yes and no. I think I've always approached music in a relatively honest fashion in terms of like how I create things and why I create them. Even in all my past projects, right up until now, working with bands and stuff, it's always been about just trying to remain honest and, you know, put integrity into the music and not try and create anything that's too contrived. Just let your influences do their thing. But in terms of me operating as a solo artist, I think now, I mean, you know, I got 2 kids, a pretty crazy sort of life, you know. This kind of template works better for me now, you know, like I can work with other people still, that's still really important, but I can sort of dictate how and when I want to do things on my own terms, you know, because all I've ever done is been in full bands before. But I've always been the sort of figurehead of those bands. I've always been the main songwriter and the singer and all those sorts of things. So I just thought, man, I can probably just do this myself and just have that flexibility. So now when I'm playing shows, I can either play as I used to play when I was a kid, which is just me and a guitar,
Right.
you know, like, or I can employ, you know, my backing band, and it just enables me to have a bit more flexibility and diversity and just do what I want. So I like that, you know.
Now you mentioned you still work with other people. There's some other folks. You recorded the album in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And who are some of the folks that you worked with on the record?
Well, I put together a crowdfunding campaign to get me over there because I didn't have, you know, the big label behind me or anything like that now.
Right.
So I've, you know, self-released the album. And before I left, I sort of called up a few people and said, would you be interested in doing some co-writing with me, and perhaps would you like to, you know, feature as a guest player on the album and things like that. And my friends that I hadn't caught up with for a while over there were quite receptive. And my friend Jay Bonner, who used to play in the Agrolites and now has his own reggae record label and things like that, he was really hospitable. He brought me into his house and you know, said you can stay here for as long as you want, and if you want to record here, I got all this like analog recording equipment and stuff in the garage, and he was really like, man, we can make a cool record together if we try and do something like that. So we did a lot of tracks together in his garage, and we had a whole bunch of different players. Like Scott Abels came and played some drums, and he played drums with Jimmy Cliff and Hepcat and Agrolites and a lot of Hellcat Records bands and stuff like that. Jason Castillo from the Black Emeralds came and played. Who else do we have come out? I did a song with Chris Chaney from The Living End as well,
yeah.
which is really amazing. Like went to his place because he lives in LA now, and wrote a song with him. Just like different random sort of coincidences like that, and we all just sort of collaborated, and yeah, it is what it is.
And the sound itself is a mix. I mean, like you mentioned,
Absolutely.
reggae. There's a reggae
That's
kind of
right.
vibe on some of the stuff.
Yep.
Some of it's kind of almost cowpunk,
Yep.
and there's kind of a rootsy thing, and then there's the more overt punk stuff going
Yeah,
through it as
well, I think there's a strong punk and rock and roll backbone to it all.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how I grew up, and I think a lot of the people that I work with, even though our tastes have diversified now, we all kind of had that sort of upbringing, you know, musically. But I love roots music, like soul music and old school R&B and rock and roll, you know, country and Americana, you know, world music, you know, like South American and African percussion and stuff like that. You know, and then, you know, British punk rock and a bit of pop music as well. And you know what I mean? So, and then the reggae and rocksteady and ska music. I love all of that stuff.
LA is a good place for
it
all
is.
that kind of mixing together, isn't
and
it?
they were really good in terms of embracing the new energy that I brought over there. They were like, "What? Where are you from? What are you doing? Oh, that sounds awesome. Yeah, let's let's do something." Which I was just like, "Fucking sweet."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So it was cool.
All right. Well, I'm in the mood for another song, so
Yeah.
we'll give one a listen. "Who Can Save Us Now" is the next one we're going to hear.
All right.
What can you tell me about that before we give us?
Well, I wrote that tune after spending the day in downtown Los Angeles, and it's a bit of a social commentary, I guess. And to me, it's a punk rock song. It's kind of like how you know, how Bob Marley said, you know, none but ourselves can free our minds, sort of thing. It's kind of like asking the question, you know, who can save us now? And it's ourselves, or are we looking to external sources? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's a little bit political, but it's not really. It's just talking about the haves and the have-nots and the current situation. It just as a, you know, as an observer, and just asking a question, you know.
All righty. Well, let's give it a listen.
Door says keep out, kick it in anyway. In dread and in doubt, I always suffer anyway. From Skid Row to the hills, everybody can feel a storm is closing in. Who can save us now? 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 Who's gonna save us? Time is running out. Next generation won't know, because we never invested in love and education. Now from the east to the west, we're breathing the same air. Still that fire keeps burning. Who can save us now? 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 Who's gonna save us? Who can save us now? 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 Tell me who's gonna save us? Whoa! Yeah, yeah, 'cause it's time, 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 time is time, 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 time is time, 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 time is time, time, time is time.
Okay, we're back here with Luke Yeoward, and we're going to hear one more song from Luke from his album Ghosts. Before that, we'll talk a bit more. Getting back into the music business after being away from it for so long is, now that you've kind of got the record recorded and you're playing gigs again, is it different than the first time around or the times before with the band?
There's similarities and differences. I think I got back into music with beginner's eyes again, you know, and that was really important, because I don't think I would have got back into music if I couldn't have felt that naivety and that newness again. You know what I mean? Sometimes the acquisition of like intellect can be your worst enemy with creativity, because you've just got like, oh, but I know that this equals that, and it's just like, fuck all that off, you know what I mean? And just let something just like come out from a, you know, from a new place. And that was a really important realization. I don't think I would have got back into music if I didn't feel that way. So now doing this, I mean, obviously, you know, I've been playing live and recording and stuff for almost 20 years now, since I was like 10 or 11 years old. And, you know, I've experienced some really, really big shows and some amazing recording sessions and some small, crazy, you know, like big, small, like a lot of, I'm not talking like stadiums, but, you know, some pretty interesting stuff. So it's, you know, it's hard not to remember all of the things, and it kind of, I guess it helps, I guess, you know, like, you know how a microphone works, and you know how to like set up a stage or something, or, you know. But that's about it. I just, nowadays, it's a really simple approach. I just try and enjoy the process, whether it's recording or playing live or whatever. It's not about what's it going to lead to, or the next step, or the fucking, you know, industry bullshit. It's just really, if I'm doing music, I'm pretty lucky, and I'm just trying to enjoy it. That's all there is to it now, you know. And whatever will be, will be.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, nobody's getting rich these days, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, I'm not a rich man, you know, but like that said, there are you know, things you can do to try and stay out of a real job, and that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah. I've always been trying to do that.
Yeah. It'll always be the dream.
Yeah, for sure. Dreams are free, you know.
Yeah. Well, and being back in New Zealand, is this the first time you've been here in a while, or?
First time I've been back here playing music in a few years. I'm going to say the last time I played here would have been 2013 or 14, something like that. After King Cannons came and played here, we played at the power station last time.
Oh, great! It's right around the corner.
And that was it was pretty much like a sold-out power station. That was a huge show. One of my favorite. You stop biting me, please. One of my favorite shows that I've done here. But I'm looking forward to playing at Whammy Bar. Friends of mine own it now, and it's just going to be a cool sort of like humble, stripped back sort of show. So, and I've never ever done, you know, solo show in New Zealand and advertised it and things like that. So it's pretty special for me, you know.
Well, you have to come back and do the whole country at some point.
I would love to. It's going to happen.
Yep. All right, we've got one more song we're going to hear before the cat completely devours you. Whose Side Are You On? What can you tell me about that?
Whose Side Are You On? Chris Chaney and I wrote that at his house in LA. He had a bit of an old idea lying around, and I sort of took it and ran with it. And then after I sort of spent a day on the song, after we spent some time on it, he came out and recorded it with me. Of course, I didn't play any of the guitar parts on the song because he's one of the best guitar players in the world, and I'm just a rhythm guitarist and a hack. So I played the djembe and the shakers and the bass guitar, and he played a couple of guitar parts on there. Just leave my beer alone. And it's a really beautiful song. I've never written a song like that. It kind of reminds me of like Roy Orbison or something like that, which is amazing. And you know, Chris and I both love like 50s rock and roll and those sort of like rock and roll ballads and things like that. So it's a special tune, you know. Cool. Yeah.
Well, let's give it a listen. Good luck with the show at the Whammy, and hopefully you'll come back and.
I'm going to come back for sure.
Yeah, bring your band.
Next time
come back around here, we'll do rock out, and it'll be fun.
As soon as I can afford to, I'll bring my band.
I hear you. All right, thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, man.
I know your house is burning, smoke signals from afar. Are you still getting round in that stolen car? We weren't afraid of stepping out. I'd go anywhere with you. Took 1,000 joyrides and made it through. Old friends like I remember back then. Just sigh, live or pretend. Whose side are you on this time? There'll be no more free rides this time. Whose side are you on? Yours or mine, old friend, old friend. I know there's vultures moving in, casting shadows and circling. You and I have faced them many times, old friend. Behind black painted walls, it's cold. Step into the wide open plains. Whose side are you on this time? There'll be no more free rides this time. Whose side are you on? Yours or mine? Whose side are you on this time, old friend, old friend? We build a strong foundation, but I can feel it giving in. I know it's not what you're made of, old friend. Whose side are you on this time? There'll be no more free rides this time. Whose side